So another week, another episode, and we're joined very gladly by Mr. Niall Hickman. How are you doing?
Excellent, couldn't be better, apart from a team of rubbish.
What's your team now for everybody?
Wolverhampton
listening?
Wanderers and Stourbridge. And
Poor
Stourbridge
you.
would probably give Wolves a good game at the moment.
Yeah.
Why Wolves?
Family. Dad was Wolverhampton, Mum was Wolverhampton, grandparents were Wolverhampton, and I was born in York.
Oh.
My dad was working in York at the time, but if I'd have worn anything other than gold and black, I would have been dropped off at the nearest York train station and left, because there was no way I was going to support anyone else. From a very early age, I was Wolverhampton. But I was the only one who wasn't born in Wolverhampton. Actually, my brother was, Mum and Dad, as I say. So we're steeped in it.
But no choice on the team who you can support then.
No choice at all, Murray. And interestingly, actually, I was talking to a friend of mine who works at Molineux on a daily basis. And we actually go back, my family actually go back to the very start of the club. Because my father, who's still alive, was Wolves and went in the 50s when we were winning everything. And his grandfather was a Wolves fan. So he would have been going around about the turn of the century, 1900s.
Yeah.
And we know that his father was also Wolves. So you're looking at 1880s.
That's a nice little connection, though. That's a good
It
connection
goes
to the
about
club.
as long as you can go back. There will be people like that dotted around the country, but not many.
Yeah, I feel like it'll be rarer nowadays, 100%.
Yeah, it'd be rarer. It'd be a lot rarer nowadays than it used to be. But yeah, I can trace it back really to the birth of the club in 1877.
There you go.
That's really unique.
And we haven't won anything since.
And it's not looking good now, is it?
It's not looking great at the moment.
So Niall, for the viewers listening, do you want to just talk a little bit about what you did during your career before we met you?
Oh crikey, where do you start? Well, I'll keep it as brief as I can, but I'll praise it down like this. I went to university after school. Didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I did want to go to university. And in the 80s, that wasn't very popular. I think it was something like 2% went to university back then. But I went to school in Stourbridge and then went to university in Colchester where I studied politics.
Oh.
Well, I'll put it another way. I didn't study an awful lot of politics, but I came out. And then I applied for a load of papers, and I applied for 92 papers.
92 papers.
And got offers from 2. Shows how popular I was.
Flipping heck.
Peterborough and Brighton offered me a gig. I went to Brighton and then moved on via various local papers. South London Press I ended up at, which is where I really started sports reporting for a company called Haters, which is a very famous press agency in London, covering Barnet and Leyton Orient mainly.
Wow.
And anything else that people would take me to. It was there that I did my first boxing show. It was a Rob McCracken fight against Ernie Loveridge at York Hall. So that's where my love of boxing came from. And then from there I went into television, ended up at Sky. Then decided that wasn't really for me, television. I was a news editor there and it wasn't quite what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a reporter. So I then left there and via a brief stint in New York, I ended up at the Daily Express, which I was there for 18 years and loved every minute of it.
Wow, that's quite amazing.
That's a long stint as well, 18 years.
Yeah, it wasn't one paper. Yeah, I mean, I was just happy there. I had a brilliant editor, Bill Bradshaw, who was just very supportive and very helpful, and we were on the same wavelength really. And Bill was just really. He was one of those guys. He was very much a reporter's editor. You know, he'd done it himself, and so he knew the pitfalls and the good bits and the bad bits. He didn't overreact if you got things wrong. He didn't shower you with praise if you got things right. But I prided myself on always working very hard. I wasn't the world's greatest journalist. I wasn't a natural compared to some people, but I was hard working. Mainly because I just enjoyed it.
There you go.
Enjoyed every minute of it.
What would you say is the craziest or best thing that you worked on or reported on?
Craziest?
Yeah.
Oh my lordy! I mean, too many to mention really. I mean, doing world title fights in Las Vegas, you've got to pinch yourself a few times. I remember the first time it happened, Harvey. I went to Holyfield versus Tyson, won, which was really the fight that busted the myth of Mike Tyson. And I remember sitting at in the front row with our commentator, presenter, Paul Dempsey, and I'd been producing our stuff from there. And I remember sitting in the front row and going, oh my God. I'm sitting in the front row at the MGM Grand, and Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield are about a yard away from me.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, okay, this is all a bit. That was not maybe the craziest, but that was the one where I really sort of pinched myself.
Yeah,
and
a
thought,
bit surreal.
Yeah, a little bit. And then there was big tournaments and what have you, but that was the one that sort of stands out as being sort of a bit special, because I was like, I can't quite believe I'm here.
In Vegas as well.
Yeah.
That must have been so cool. That must have been so
Surreal
cool.
moment.
It was, yeah, Vegas is not everybody's cup of tea, Henry, but it's, I wouldn't necessarily say it'd be my choice of holiday destination. I'd probably rather go to Skegness, actually, but no offence
Great
to
choice.
No offence to Skegness. But it was, it's a bit out of this world, Vegas is. You guys have never been there, have you?
No,
I guess?
no.
You want to go there once in your life, because it's the nearest thing, I think, to sort of stepping out on a different planet.
Yeah.
Everything is big, 20 billion times bigger than anything you've ever seen before. And it's sort of surreal place. It just doesn't, they're gambling all night long and all day. There's no night and day in Vegas. It's just a completely different world. So I'd advise everyone go there once, but I did it probably about 30 times.
Flipping heck.
Did you ever go out and hit the city that never sleeps?
No, I stayed in every night and went back to my hotel room with a good book.
Oh.
No, never drank on the day of a fight. Well, occasionally did afterwards, but by the time you finished, it would be 1, 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So I didn't socialise much on the day of a fight. I mean, I was one of a group of boxing writers who we enjoyed life. Yeah, and we went out. Some of them were really good mates. Unfortunately, one of them died last year, Ron Lewis. But we had some great times. We did sort of see the world. I remember going with Ron we went to the baseball. They had a rubbishy team in Vegas. It was March. It was freezing cold, because the desert does get cold.
Yeah.
And we went to this baseball game. It was AA, I think, so that's pretty low. But we just loved baseball, so we went and we got there. There would have been about 50 people in the crowd. And the bloke came down the aisle and said, beer. So we grabbed hold of a couple of beers, and I remember he said, that'll be $2.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, what's the catch? And he said, it's dollar beer night tonight.
There
Okay,
you
that's
go.
good.
There you go.
So it's bang on.
That's
we
your
ended up-
calling.
Me and Ron ended up in the Girls of Glitter Gulch, which I hasten to say was a strip club. I hasten to say another thing. I can't remember anything about it, but I do know I never spent any money in there. It was brilliant. We had some great times. And the boxers, I was very lucky as well. I was talking to another old friend of mine the other day about this. I was incredibly lucky. I was working with the Calzaghes and Hattons, Nazim Hamids, Frank Bruno, Nigel Benn, some of the great boxers.
Yeah.
So I had
Massive names.
I had some brilliant times with them.
Yeah.
They were great.
Before we talk about everything that's going on in the world, there's a couple of stories that we'd love to hear again. I think the first one that you obviously were in the press conference with Wayne Rooney when he came in and said about what he did about the Germans. Are you able to tell us that story?
No, it's Sir Alex Ferguson.
Alex Ferguson.
What did I say?
You said Wayne Rooney.
No, I
it's
meant Sir
Fergie.
Alex Ferguson.
No,
sorry.
somebody asked me who's the maddest person. And Alex Ferguson certainly wasn't mad or anything like that, but he was a real character. He's an amazing character bloke. And to be able to sustain a team year after year after year when you're in your 70s. Because I know, obviously, I met lots of footballers, and they don't tend to listen to 70-year-old men very much.
Yeah.
But Fergie managed to bridge that gap. I don't know how he did it, but he did. So he must have. He was touched definitely by a genius in man management. But my overriding memory of him was lots of things. I mean, met him several times, although I never did the Manchester shift, so he wouldn't know me from Adam. But I know people who know him very well, and they've all said the same thing, that he was a very loyal and very, very trustworthy bloke. Didn't particularly like the press, although having said that, he did like certain members of the press.
Yeah.
Paul Hayward, who wrote his book, I know got on very, very well with him. McIlvenney was one of his best mates in the world. But my memory, the funny one I remember was that nobody else would ever get away with it. But Man United lost at home in the Champions League semi-final to Bayern Munich, 3-2, I think it was. The Germans spent some of the game falling to the floor, let me put it that way. And Fergie came in the room and said only about 5 words. All Germans are beep cheats. All Germans are cheats. And he walked out, and this German bloke sitting next to me actually said, what did he just say? So he said, all Germans are big cheats. He did, no. I said, yeah, that's fair. And he walked out, and I thought, what a classy guy. I mean, nobody else could get away with that.
I mean, to drop that bombshell like that is crazy and then just leave, but he's so respected in the game.
Nobody else could get away with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody else could get away with it, but he did. I think he's sorely missed now. I really do. But what an amazing personality to be able to keep that going for so many years. I'd find that incredible.
Murray was telling me, did you meet Princess Diana or something?
I did. That was another one, although she never swore, to the best of my knowledge.
That doesn't surprise us, I don't think.
Well, no, my editor sent me down. It was the opening of a homeless shelter, I think it was, in South London. So my editor sent me down, Rob Bowden, and said, no, whatever you do, just ask her a question. Then we can stick it on the front page of the South London Press. So I said, yeah, okay. So we got down there, and she finished this speech, a couple of minutes long, you know, where she said, I'm very glad to be here, marvellous, marvellous. And at the end of it, I kind of stuck my hand in the air and went, excuse me, Your Royal Highness, are you really happy to be here? It was the only thing I could think of.
Yeah.
It was just a crap question, but there you go. And she replied with, oh, yes, I'm absolutely delighted to be here, and it's wonderful. And then a press officer jumped in and sort of said, you can't ask the questions. What are you doing? So I said, okay, yeah, fine. So I kind of trotted off, and I went back to my office, and did you get a question? I said, yeah, I did, yeah. Well, what was it? So I regaled them of the question that I asked, possibly the worst question I ever asked. Oh, that's brilliant, Niall. Sensational.
You got the line.
We've got a line.
You got an answer.
What do you mean? And we slapped it on the front page, and it was, Her Royal Highness speaks exclusively to the South London Press. Da 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 da. She didn't.
Yeah.
She said about 5 words.
Oh.
And but I think we sold way more copies that week because we stuck her on the front with, speaks exclusively to the South London Press.
It's all down to your work, Niall, with that question.
Well, it was a pathetic attempt at sort of trying to get somebody very, very famous, but it worked.
Yeah.
That's the important thing.
Yeah.
You do what your editor tells you.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm sure we've got it all to come. But we'll go on to footballing matters now.
Yeah.
Obviously, big
After
Wolves
Princess Diana, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's the appropriate choice. How do you feel about what Gary O'Neill's doing with Wolves?
Oh, right now, I feel a bit sorry for him actually. Which I'm not. I mean, look, he's a much wealthier man than you and I could ever dream of. But I do feel a bit like he's been let down by the club more than anything else. If you sell your centre half and you sell your best player, and you don't replace them, it's rather difficult to blame a manager then. I accept the vast majority of Wolves fans at the moment are not of that opinion. I think they just want him gone. But I think he's been a bit unlucky and a bit unfortunate. I really do. And you cannot sell players and not replace them and expect a manager to go, oh yeah, look, we'll carry on improving. It just doesn't work that way. The Premier League is an unforgiving environment. Defensively, they are all over the place this season, which can be down to management. But he brought in a centre half for nothing, I might add. Yerson Mosquera, he gets injured 2 games into the season. All of a sudden, then Dawson's ill. Bueno got injured. We're down to literally nothing at the back. And yes, it is going to end, but I don't think he's been treated particularly fairly by the board at all.
There's been so many injuries though. So you got Lamina, Ait-Nouri playing as centre halves. It's like
true, but all clubs get injuries. Murray. I mean, you can blame anything on anything. What I think is the pertinent aspect of this is that if you sell your best players every year, you're not going to improve, are you?
Yeah.
And eventually, you're going to get caught down at the bottom, and that's what's happened. Yes, injuries, all clubs have them.
Yeah.
Just the bigger clubs obviously can accommodate them better, which is why usually Man City tend to have a very strong second half of the season. Because it's got a bigger squad.
Yeah, squad depth is massive.
Yeah, but in answer to your question, I feel a lot of sympathy for Gary O'Neill because it's certainly going to end, and which is a bit sad. But I don't think he's been very well served by his club.
Well, one of your better players this season, Matthias Cunha,
Yep.
been linked away in January. Do you think you'll retain him for the full season, or do you think you have to look for a replacement?
Well, I think if they let him go in January, there'll be riots in Wolverhampton because I don't think the players particularly shown any great desire to leave. I mean, Henry, I'm painfully aware of the pecking order in football.
Yeah.
When Nunes wanted to go to Man City a while back, that was it. He just said basically, I'm going to drop sticks and I'm not going to do anything. So I am aware of that, but I think Cunha will go on to have an amazing career because he is a rare talent.
Yeah.
But it won't be at Wolverhampton Wanderers. I doubt it very much because we've become a selling club. Now, obviously, we call them the Big Six, don't we, or whatever they are nowadays. They tend to, hoover up all the players that they want, and then often that player then maybe moves on to Real Madrid or something like that. But Cunha, I think, could go very, very far. Could go a really long way. And he's not the only one at Wolves. I think they've got some really good players.
Yeah.
But they're not gelling as a team at all. But Gomez in the middle of the park is a good player, and the lad up front's going to be a good player. Aït-Nouri's a good player. They have got some talent there, but he'll go. It's just a question of when.
I mean, that would be the problem when you sold Kilman. You don't bring in those replacements.
Yep.
You're just going to struggle. So it's sort of understandable this
I'm
season.
afraid you are, but the company that they work for has decided that's what they're going to do. It is not a recipe for long-term staying in the Premier League. Never has been.
Yeah.
If you buy young and replace with, a lower standard, then eventually you get caught. And I'm sure if it doesn't happen this season, it'll happen eventually if they stay under the current owners.
That surprised me when Kilman went. I didn't think he'd go. But
I don't think the player was particularly keen to go, but
No.
Certainly didn't get that impression, although he is from the southeast. No, I didn't get that impression either. I don't think anybody did.
It's a strange move for me because, don't get me wrong, West Ham are a good club, but it's not like he's making the jump up to a Champions League club.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it's a sideways move, but it almost was a little bit in my opinion.
Yeah, it wasn't like that high, massive move to like a traditional Big Six, was it?
No, Neto went to Chelsea. So I know what you mean. Mind you, West Ham gets 60,000 every week, but you are right, they weren't in any European stuff. I don't think, from what I know, Max Kilman wasn't desperately keen to leave. But Wolves got offered, 40 odd million?
Yeah, maybe it's because he played under Lopetegui as well. Maybe
could have something to do with it.
Lopetegui wanted to get Kilman in because he knew he'd do a good job, something like that.
Could have.
Is Lopetegui next to go?
I think he'll. I don't think he's got much of a shelf life at West Ham. I was surprised by the appointment in the first place.
Yeah.
I said to various colleagues and friends of mine that the West Ham fans were desperate for a more expansive, entertaining game. Well, that's not Lopetegui.
No.
That's not his teams at all throughout the whole of his history. He's a very well organised and well constructed manager, but he's not Mr. Entertainment by any stretch. So quite what they were doing getting rid of David Moyes for somebody who was quite the same. But are you with me?
He
wasn't known for entertaining, flourishing football. He didn't do that at Wolves. We tended to win games 1-0. Under Gary O'Neill, they looked very. I nearly said sensational. I wouldn't go that far. They looked very good going forward, much better than they did under Lopetegui. But at the back, they're a shambles.
Yeah.
So catches up with you, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk about Tottenham a little bit. Ange Postecoglou's got a difficult job on his hands because he's beaten Man City.
Yeah.
And then he's going drawing to Fulham and losing to Chelsea. It's,
they're a funny side, aren't they, Spurs?
They
win
are.
one, lose one, win one, lose one, win one, lose one.
Yeah.
Man City, they look like world beaters, didn't they?
Yeah.
Sure.
I was surprised. I hope I'm not taking it out of context because I don't know Postecoglou at all from Adam.
Yeah.
But when he said he wasn't bothered by any of the criticism, I found that strange because that was his reaction, which I've seen it before, but rarely. You know, when you dismiss criticism or from supporters as just a sort of fly to be swatted away, I find that really odd. I mean, they are entitled to their opinions. They pay your wages via those various other TV broadcasters, but they are the lifeblood of the club, and they're entitled to their opinion. So for a manager, I may be taking it out of context because I didn't see the whole of the interview.
Yeah.
But the manager's reaction was very dismissive. I don't care. You know,
yeah.
And I don't like that. I remember a couple of weeks ago changing the subject, but Ben Stokes was asked a similar question about the top 6 England cricket, and he just said, "I don't care." And I thought, well, you should do.
Yeah.
You should care what people. Well, it shouldn't necessarily change your opinion, but you should at least listen.
Yeah, it was a very strange response. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. I don't think Bill Shankly and Bobby Robson, people like that, would have just dismissed it quite in that way. But the game has changed and moved on. I get that.
Yeah.
But it wasn't one that filled me with a great deal of love for Ange.
Tottenham just seems so erratic at the moment, though.
Yeah.
Like yesterday when they played Chelsea, it's like the 2 penalties they give away. What are the players thinking about? It's just they always do, and they look so good going forward, but then they're so open at the back. It's like you have to have a good balance. I just don't think they have that at the moment.
They're totally inconsistent, aren't they?
Yeah, really inconsistent.
You really don't know what you're going to get one week from the next from Spurs.
It's like you can beat Man City 4-0 away from home, and then the next week you're losing to Brighton. It's very strange.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it underlines how tough it is to win games in the Premier League.
Yeah.
You know, it is a tough league to win games on a regular basis. And I think you've only got to be like, you know, a couple of percentages down and you get beat. And I mean, my team went to Fulham the other day and stuffed them. And Fulham turned up on the night and weren't quite at the races.
Yeah.
But it just shows you've only got to be, with Spurs, with everybody, you've only got to be a couple of degrees down. And Man City used to be able to cope with it even when they didn't play well.
Yeah.
But now they, you know, shorn of one of their best players, you know, they're not quite the same, are they?
No, they're really inconsistent City, aren't they?
Well, recently they've been very consistent in losing.
Consistently bad, yeah.
But I take your point. Yeah, they're finding it hard this year as well. I mean, the only ones that aren't, I suppose, Liverpool. But they're drawing the odd game and here and there. It is difficult to win unless you're at the top of your game every game.
Yeah, no, of course. And obviously Chelsea beat them. Can they go on to win the league?
Chelsea?
Yeah.
I doubt it, but stranger things have happened, brackets Leicester.
Yeah.
So it has happened before. It wouldn't be on a seismic scale as Leicester City winning it, but is it possible? Yeah. Is it likely? No. I would think it's very unlikely because they'd have to have done a huge leap from where they were. But players-wise, crikey, you've only got to look at the lineup.
Yeah. The depth they have. I mean, they've got the squad depth to go and win the league.
I mean, they've got an A squad and then a B squad, haven't they? So in the Europa Conference League or the Cup competitions, they just switched the whole 11 in.
Yeah. They definitely got the depth.
Yeah.
Whether or not they've got the consistency or not, I don't know.
It's a very young team as well. There's not many experienced heads in there. So I think that could, you know, if they've got moments of adversity in the season, I don't think they have quite the experienced players to drag them through it. We'll wait and see.
Possibly. I mean, young players, you tend to lack consistency with youngsters, but they do tend to be fearless.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
They're lacking that fear factor. But yeah, you are right that generally speaking, with younger players, you know, you get very highs and then occasionally they drop. Whereas you don't see Kevin De Bruyne have a bad game, do you?
No.
Or Rodri or
Yeah.
whoever, you know, they just stay on that level, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you? I know you just mentioned Leicester. Did you any covering of that season Leicester won?
I saw them. Yeah, I do. I certainly covered several games that year.
Yeah.
I remember one game in about December, and I went there, and they were all just laughing and joking about it.
Yeah,
You know, This is ridiculous. But as the season wore on and on and on, the other, I think Arsenal were kind of the closest rivals to them that year, and along with a few others, they kind of just fell by the wayside, didn't they?
Yeah.
Having said that, Leicester won it entirely due to their own efforts. I'm not suggesting that.
Yeah.
I think they only lost 3 games, didn't they, in the whole season?
Something crazy like that.
Yeah.
They didn't drop many points. They won it with a lot of points.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like a fluky win.
No, they performed.
I'm not saying that for a second. They deserved to win it, but I remember doing a game there round about December, and they were all just saying, "Oh, this isn't going to carry on."
Yeah.
And it did. So, what was it? 500 to 1 at the
Yeah, I
start?
was just going to say, weren't the odds mega? Yeah.
I had a couple of quid on it. No, I didn't.
You wish you did. You wish
I
you
don't think
did.
they took a single vote on it. Did a bet on it? I don't think. Or was there one woman in Leicester who did?
Someone definitely
did,
won.
yeah,
I think someone won about £70,000 or
Someone
something.
did, yeah. I vaguely remember somebody actually, and people were thinking, "What? What are you nuts?" It's crazy.
Yeah, no, it was a crazy period, wasn't it, when they won that?
Yeah.
I was going to say, do you think something like that will ever happen again? Because you look at the league now, and there's talk about you need 90 points to win the league. So do you think something like that can happen again, or is it just stonewall it's going to be the Big Six now?
Like everybody else, Henry, I'd say it's highly unlikely.
Yeah.
But football sport is a live sport, and it's live, and people make mistakes, and people come from nowhere. Less so these days. I think Leicester was a great shot in the arm for the Premier League. I really do. And I hope it happens again.
Yeah.
Do I think it will? Probably not, but I would love it to happen again. Because, I mean, when I was watching the game, your age, Liverpool were very, very powerful. Then it became Manchester United, and now it's and then Chelsea, and then Man City. And dynasties always end. They always come to an end eventually. Man City will not win the league every year for the next 50 years. That's not going to happen. You don't know why, but they do. They end. But a freakish one like Leicester, crikey, I would think it's really unlikely.
Yeah.
But never say never, I suppose.
What was that story again where you were reporting and your hands were so cold you physically couldn't type?
Oh, yeah, well, that's going back to... That wasn't quite December, that was November. I went with a group of colleagues to England under 21.
Yeah.
And we went to Reykjavik, which is not known for being particularly warm in November. And it was perishingly cold. And England won 3-0, I think, but we couldn't actually type. It was so cold I couldn't type, and the press officer actually said, do you want to go into the executive box and go and work in there? And we did, second half. But I remember somebody was complaining about how cold it was at the weekend. I was thinking, whoa, you want to try going to Iceland?
That was probably me at Chesterfield.
Chesterfield
Not
was
sure.
cold.
I don't think I can handle Reykjavik.
Chesterfield, though, Murray, is cold in June. So in July, so it's going to be cold in what are we now, in December, isn't it? But, but it's not on a different level to Iceland. I remember feeling sorry for the players because I mean they were getting on the pitch.
Yeah.
Must have been a nightmare.
Imagine if someone volleyed the ball and it like hit you on the back of the leg or something in that cold weather. Oh my days!
God.
It hurts enough as it is.
It was just the game I remember. I remember going with a couple of colleagues from the Nationals, and it was just it was freezing. I mean, I'd never known anything like it. But what do you do?
Well, Niall, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us. It's been a very interesting episode, so we thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Some great stories.
Great fun. Thank you ever so much, guys.
No, I hope you enjoyed it.
Good luck with the rest of your podding.
Thank you.
Thank you, Niall.